What's going on YouTube? Ryan and Alex back from Dopemon again for a new, different kind of video as what is on the channel. Normally we have gaming, glitch videos that Alex pretends he didn't do on purpose.
Yeah.
And today we're going to react to every trade that happened during the NHL Trade Deadline 2019. Literally one at a time, sequentially throughout the day. From the first trade that is on the bottom of the screen now that happened, I think, at like 12:05 in the morning or something. So it's technically today.
Yes, so this is Dopemon's summary of the 2019 NHL Trade Deadline.
Yeah, essentially a reaction video.
Yeah.
New thing we're gonna go with on channel, but we said why not? We'll do it.
Why not?
All right, first trade. Let's jump right into it. We got the San Jose Sharks acquiring Gustav Nyquist from the Detroit Red Wings for 2 picks, a second, and a conditional third. The condition on the third being if they advance to the Cup final or if they re-sign Nyquist becomes another second. So it's essentially 2 second-round picks for a rental winger
Yeah,
in San Jose.
and I like Gustav Nyquist for what he is. That second line scoring. I think that they're gonna put him on the third line with Thornton.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I don't know what the Sharks depth chart is on that right side.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I know they obviously have Evander Kane on the wing, but I think he's a left. I think Nyquist plays both sides. Like he plays left
Yeah,
wing,
he
right wing.
does.
He's one of those weird wingers. Can be put either way.
Weirdos.
Alex Ovechkin type players where he's
Yeah.
not a left wing or a right wing. But no, I like it. They had to retain some salary, I think, to get it done. It says 1.425 retained. Obviously, that only lasts for this year, and Detroit
Yeah,
doesn't care. Uh,
because he is a rental. This is the last year of his contract.
Here's a rental. I don't know if I like the I'm neutral on the trade right now because if he, I don't think the Nyquist is going to resign in San Jose, but
I
I
don't think they can afford him to.
yeah, that's the thing, right? I don't unless he takes some sort of crazy discount to be there or he's not as valuable as we think. I don't know if
Mhm.
that will he'll resign there,
Yeah,
but
they have a just under 500,000 cap space, $500,000 right now.
yeah, right now, and are
And
they
they
losing
signed, like,
anybody?
they have to, like, this is the contract year for Timo Meyer, Eric Carlson. Like,
Yeah, and the list of players you want to resign, Eric
mhm.
Carlson comes first there.
Yeah, that you gotta spend $5 million when you don't have $5 million. And Nyquist's contract is probably gonna go for that.
Yeah, you also have Joe Pavelski's coming UFA. Joe Thornton's a UFA.
Thornton can get less. I could see them both
Thornton will get
getting less.
yes. I wouldn't be surprised if Thornton retires, to be honest. Especially if they win a cup.
Mm.
He'll
Well, I
probably
think
he'll
that's
probably
what they're
call it
doing.
quits.
I think going for Nyquist is them saying we're all in. They went for Carlson. That's them saying, right from the beginning, we're all in. They want to get a cup with Joe Thornton, as that center, give him one, make him a Hall of Famer quicker.
I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer without it.
Yeah,
I think,
for
but
sure. He's gonna make it.
for San Jose, it might be a little much to give up. Potentially 2 second-round picks for like a third line scoring
Yeah,
winger.
for someone who they're gonna put on the third line.
Yeah, but if they are all in, they're all in. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah, and
I
if he's good in the playoffs, that's gonna look like an amazing trade.
no, yeah, everything can change in the playoffs if he gets you know goes on some big scoring spree and ends up
Hmm.
this year's Devontae Smith Pelly
Yeah.
uh, from Washington Capitals last year, then it'll look like a genius move. But if he gets hurt or if he has 1 goal in 16 games or whatever,
Hmm.
ends up playing 20 some odd games and
It'll
I'm
look
not
like
regretting
the
that trade.
Thomas Tatar trade last year. That's like, okay, you gave him so much up and he just didn't fit.
Yeah, but at the same time, giving picks for wingers, those picks aren't going to be very high. Even if they're second round picks, they're going to be late seconds.
Yeah, late seconds.
So, yeah, the Sharks definitely won this trade, but the jury will be still out in any trade that involves
I think it's about
draft
50.
picks.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's an even trade.
Yeah, it's an even trade. I mean,
That's just me. If you want to lean towards.
if you're the thing is with Detroit is they're not in full sell mode. Like if they were in full sell mode, they'd be getting rid of all these guys because Detroit's cap situation is the worst in the entire NHL.
Yeah,
It's
they're
awful.
right near the cap limit there.
They're one of the worst teams in the league, and they have just the worst cap structure. Like they were going to lose Nyquist anyway to free agency because they just can't give him the money because they have guys like Franz Nielsen and Justin Applicator signed to stupid contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, you're
They
just
had
giving
to
him
learn
up for
something.
picks, right? You're trying to rebuild the prospect, the cupboard to this
Mhm.
point. So this is kind of a trade they had to be, forced to make at some point if they didn't want to just lose him for free, especially because they're not in the hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
for that reason though, I'd give it to Detroit. They know that they're in a desperate situation, trying to make some cap space. They get some 2 picks out of it. That's a lot to give up.
well, they're making cap space. They're not really making cap space up because it expires at the end of the year, and like the amount of cap hit you're going to save this year is like eh.
And like you're gonna lose him, so you might as well get something for him. And we got a decent return for.
Yeah, pretty good return if you're going that route. I'd still my verdict's gonna be San Jose wins this trade.
All right, I'm gonna give it to Detroit.
All right. Cool. That's good. Good start right away. We don't agree on shit. That's awesome. All right, let's move on. We're only spend a couple minutes on each trade.
Yeah,
There were 20 some odd trades to do. So the second trade, and you can provide more insight on this, Alex, because I don't know who this guy is.
We all know that Patrick Syloff was the guy that gave Clark MacArthur his career-ending concussion.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And I think he played 1 or 2 games with Ottawa, and they're not a fan of him in the organization. You play hard, but you don't, target a guy who has a concussion history's head.
Yeah, in a training, preseason game, preseason practice.
Brian Gibbons is on a 30-year-old depth. I got a thing here.
He's a winger. I know he plays with some speed. He played in New Jersey last year when they had that over, they played above their potential last year, and he ended up playing well. I ended up signing for $1 million, I think, for this year, and this year only. He's a guy. The Ottawa Senators are, like, they need bodies at this point. So they're like, hey, this guy plays in the NHL. We don't want Syloff anymore because I think he was an AHL guy for them, right?
Yeah.
So, just bring a guy in. We've already given up Duchesne and Dzingel. We need another guy.
Ottawa has, guys that they want to bring up, Logan Brown, Drake Batherson, but the Binghamton Senators, I think they have points in 15 games now. So they're going to be, they're like fighting for a playoff run, and they'd rather them play the AHL games. So they need NHL bodies instead of filling them with prospects to give them some experience.
Yeah, especially because, Ottawa isn't going anywhere this year.
Yeah, and you don't want them to catch the losing bug either. You don't want them to get their asses kicked in Ottawa and lose some confidence when they're really good players.
Yeah, so essentially the same thing the Leafs did in 2014-15, and we'll get to that when we get to the bigger Ottawa Senators trade.
Yeah.
Because this Sens team reminds me of the Leafs when they were in full blown rebuild.
Except without their first overall pick.
Except without the prospect of Austin Matthews potentially being their first overall pick. Okay, that's all for that one. That's a nothing trade. Actually, no. Who wins this trade for you?
I'm gonna give it to neither.
Yeah, me too. This is
it's
just a nothing trade. I'm gonna go down the middle on this one too.
Because Anaheim, they get some, not a character guy. He's not gonna do much, and Ottawa just gets a body that's wins here. They're both kind of loose.
The Ducks get a guy that will probably never play in Anaheim, and the Ottawa Senators get a guy who will play for the rest of their season and then end up in Europe.
Yeah, and then that's that. So.
All right, next trade. Enough about Ottawa.
I like this one.
Yes, the Columbus Blue Jackets acquire Keith Kincaid from the New Jersey Devils in exchange for a 2022 fifth-round draft pick. So I was actually surprised when I heard this trade. This is the first trade that you heard on TV in the morning, or the first one that broke on Twitter.
Yeah.
Keith Kincaid to the Columbus Blue Jackets. I like it for the Blue Jackets. I really, really like it for the Blue Jackets. I think it's
But
going
they
to be
didn't
super
give up a
underrated.
lot.
Hmm?
Just a fifth. That's not a big.
Yeah, so it's a fifth, like 3 years from now. Like
Mhm.
it's who,
Though I don't
whatever.
know what Columbus is going to do with their goalies now because they have three: Bobrovsky, Kincaid, and Korpisalo.
Yep.
And neither, obviously not Bobrovsky, but neither of them have uh, neither of them are waiver exempt.
Oh,
So
neither. Okay.
yeah, you have three goalies, and you're gonna send one down, or you're gonna try and play three. Like
I think
there's
this
one
was a trade more so for next season than this
that's
season,
what I figured. But if
because
this,
the prospect of Bobrovsky leaving at the end of the year.
mhm,
You have a guy in Kincaid who has played a decent chunk last year as a starter, with Corey Crawford kind of been the shelf guy, and actually did pretty decent on New Jersey. He's been awful this year. That's why it's the price is a fifth round pick 3 years from now.
mhm,
But he could be a guy to step in next year, kind of a tandem with Korpisalo, and
yeah,
play some decent hockey.
and they get ahead of the free agency for the cost of a fifth.
Yeah,
They could maybe Keith Kincaid goes to the free agency. Maybe they sign a different goalie, but they're like, we want him. We'll pay a fifth to just get ahead of it and sign him, before he goes to free agency to really solidify their goalie core.
yeah, and he'll be really cheap if they
Mhm.
want to even try to keep Panarin or even Bobrovsky. He'll
Yeah,
be
it won't
really cheap,
cost
or
much.
they can just let him go and try to resign. If they are able to resign Bobrovsky, you can just let him
Yeah,
walk in
just
free agency.
that's the only cost a fifth.
Yeah,
So
I
I don't
like
know
it.
what they're gonna do now with the three goalies. I don't know if that can ruin them if they just don't play Keith Kincaid a lot, or don't play one of them a lot. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I like it. I think the Columbus Blue Jackets win this trade.
Likewise, I still
The
think they
the New Jersey Devils in goal, I think, have kind of buggered themselves. They're really gonna have to start relying on Corey Snyder to play a little bit better than he has the last couple of years and
Yeah,
not get
yeah.
injured. They do have Mackenzie Blackwood, I think his name is,
Hmm.
in the minors, kind of going up and down. This makes him the official backup for New Jersey,
Yep.
or tandem with Corey Schneider. But if Corey Schneider goes down, Mackenzie Blackwood is your starter, and I don't know if that's such a great idea to have a kid
No.
in a hockey team like New Jersey who's really
Yeah.
struggling this year.
Even his AHL team isn't doing like the best right now. Actually, Blackwood's NHL numbers are better than his AHL
Yeah, they're
numbers.
amazing actually in the NHL. He's really shown up, but that's in like a limited role.
Yeah, that's not the biggest reference there.
All right,
13 games.
so we're gonna move to the first big trade of the day, if it'll show up. There we go. The first big trade of the day, the Winnipeg Jets acquire Kevin Hayes from the New York Rangers in exchange for Brendan Lemieux, a conditional first and a conditional fourth. The condition on the first being if the what is this? This pick transfers to the Rangers only if Winnipeg wins the Stanley Cup. So it might
That's
not
the,
even be.
that's the fourth. The fourth is contingent on them winning the cup.
Oh, sorry.
If they win the cup this year, they get the fourth round pick 3 years from now.
Shush. Yeah, that's a okay. And the first condition is should the draft lottery, it's just a top three protection, and it moves to
Yeah.
it's the Ottawa Senator protection
Yep.
that they should have had.
Yep.
Okay, that actually makes more sense. Yeah, honestly, is Kevin Hayes better than I think he is?
I don't think he is.
Like, he's a big guy. He's center. I know the Winnipeg Jets are they need someone like that since they couldn't
They're already a
sign
big
Stastny in
team.
the offseason. But he
I
joins
know
a
that's
big team, like
bigger,
you said.
but
But
I don't. The price point for him,
yeah,
I'd have asked for Zibanejad in return.
that's what. Yeah, that kind
Like, go
of
for the bigger fish. Like they gave up a first in Lemieux. Like
a first in
that's
Lemieux for a guy whose contract expires at the end of the year.
Mm.
So you're giving up a first in Lemieux for a rental, which is I don't know. And I know the Winnipeg pick isn't supposed to be that high.
No, but that's still like a crazy value for.
Yeah,
Like not even like yeah, Kevin Hayes adds the size, but Brendan Lemieux was like an agitator. He was physical. I think he even weighs exactly the same amount, despite being 4 or 5 inches shorter. Like,
heavier kind of player.
yeah, I don't like. I get maybe they're like a new, they could work him in, maybe get some chemistry with Line instead of Brian Little, so they have like two second line centers that they can rotate. But I don't.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I don't honestly. I don't like this for Winnipeg. I like
Yeah.
the
No.
fact that they're trying to go for it, but the
Yeah.
Rangers
I
are.
like that they're going for it, but
And I think the Winnipeg Jets made the most trades just by
mhm.
quantity today, and just a couple little trades in there, but like they made a lot of moves trying to
Yeah.
shake up their thing, and this started the arms race uh, for top six forwards in that division today. Um, Nashville and Vegas and other Western teams making big moves at the end of the game
Yeah.
because of
Real,
this.
real late.
So maybe that was part of their MO. I don't know, but for this trade, I definitely give it to New York.
Yeah, likewise. That's all we.
Getting good value, really good
Yeah.
value for a guy you're probably not going to resign.
And Brendan Lemieux is, we don't know his offensive, potential. Like, what's his ceiling? Like, it's not going to be amazing.
Yeah,
He's got some, but New York gets a roster player who can play, who still has like, potential, is still growing. Like that's what they need.
yeah. The New York Rangers got more in return for Kevin Hayes than they did Matt Zuccarello
Yeah.
a
And I
couple
think,
days ago. Like they don't like Zuccarello was I think a second and a third.
hmm
It was similar to the Nyquist trade, right?
and Kevin, I guess maybe it's a center market. Like,
Must be. I mean, I don't.
I'm not
Maybe he's
sure.
better than I think. I don't know a lot about Kevin Hayes.
Yeah, he's on a career year, but like that inflates his value, and maybe that doesn't mean he's like, maybe he's playing above his level, so he goes to Winnipeg and maybe he plays a little bit below his level, and it looks like a shitty trade.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden Brendan Lemieux's putting up more points by the end of the season than Hayes does or something like that. I don't like it for Winnipeg. I think the Rangers win this one.
yeah, me too. All right, let's move on. Trade number 5 on the day. Montreal Canadiens get Jordan Wheel exchanged for Michael Chaput, the Arizona
Yep.
Coyotes. Depth
I,
forward for another depth forward. I mean,
yep. And you know what? They were drafted the same year, third round, 19 places apart. Very similar stats and almost this, I think Wheel has more offensive, ceiling he's shown, but hasn't shown it this year.
and I mean this is a Mark Bergevin player. Do you ever notice Mark Bergevin is in love with bottom 6 forwards heading into the playoffs?
Hmm.
He's done it like every year for the last 3 years, or since the years they are in contention. He just
Mhm.
gets these random depth guys, and I know playoff depth is important, but like
Very,
really minor splashes. Like the last 2 years, Lou Lamoriello's thing was in Toronto was getting that fourth line center,
yeah,
Brian Boyle and
Brian
Thomas
Boyle.
Plekanec last year. This is the same thing. It's just a Mark Bergevin depth winger trade. I mean,
So he traded a depth guy for a depth guy. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
okay.
maybe they like his play style fits better.
Oh man, they're born 6 days apart too.
This is the same player.
Yeah, this is the same. Like,
Chaput's
if
Chaput's a forward, right?
more facial hair onto Wheel, he looks like Chaput.
It's the exact same
So,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's the same
Chaput's a
person.
forward. Okay. Both of them aren't on expiring deals, I don't think, right? So
I thought it's the last year for both. No, it's the last year for Jordan Wheel, who's on the 1.75. But I don't know if like it's expiring, so you're not going to sign him to more than that. If you do resign him, you'd probably be pretty cheap.
right.
Chaput's on the first year of a $675,000 contract.
I'll give this trade to Montreal just because it's an NHL guy and he'll help your depth,
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving up a relatively low cost AHL
Yeah, it
center.
costs nothing for Arizona, I don't think, but Montreal got the player they wanted. That's what I think.
Yeah,
They have a
because of that.
slight edge to Montreal, but I want to call it 50-50.
All right, I'll give the edge straight up to Montreal.
All right.
I don't think this for Arizona this is any more than just giving up a guy that they were either done with or didn't think had any future in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the biggest trade of the day.
Oof.
Florida Panthers acquire Cliff Poo for future considerations.
Future considerations. Now, what do we have to say about these future considerations that we don't know yet?
I don't. I think they shouldn't give up on future considerations. I think that guy had a future.
He had some real considerations.
Cliff Poo, I think, was the guy that got traded. I think the San Jose, or was it the Ottawa to Hoffman trade? I think I recognize his name.
I don't think so. It might have not to Ottawa. I'll check the. It was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes, along with a second and a third for Jeff Skinner.
Oh, that's what I recognize his name for. How did he ended up? Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a forward. He's an AHL forward. Yeah. Future considerations just means we're gonna give you, he's the NHL version of player to be named later in baseball.
Yep. We'll give him to just take him off your hands. We'll deal with about the details after the trade deadline.
Yeah. I'm going down the middle with this. No one wins this trade.
I don't know what the future considerations are. Like,
that's
I don't know. Yeah, I do think Cliff Poo can be a good bottom six winger. One day, give him a few years, but like, I don't know what the future considerations are. So
yeah, no, AHL guy for AHL.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just a big old question mark for this one.
Yeah, just a question mark.
Trade number 7 of the day. I guess the next biggest trade. The Colorado Avalanche acquired Derek Brassard and a conditional 6th from the Florida Panthers for a 3rd-round pick. The condition is if Brassard signs an extension with Colorado Avalanche, no pick is transferred, which I think is kind of weird.
And Florida retained $2 million because Brassard's contract is $5 million, and this is his contract. Like the
$2 million I think was already retained by somebody, wasn't it? I think it was Pittsburgh. I think he has money retained somewhere else.
Maybe you're right.
So Ottawa didn't retain it. I think Pittsburgh retained it when they
traded. Okay, yeah, you're right. Part of the what's the big kid's name? The center, Bugstad.
Yeah,
Nick Bugstad.
Yeah, but again, another
Ottawa center.
Another center rental. Yeah, another Ottawa Senator, right? Oh my God. But this was what we all knew this was happening weeks ago when Florida acquired Brassard. We knew they were going to flip him for something.
Mm-hmm.
And, a third is something, right? Rather than...
So what was it? It was 4 years ago, in 15-16, 3 years ago, when Brassard was New York Rangers' lead scorer. And, Ottawa gave up Zibanejad to get him, I think, and a second. Right. Zibanejad and like a second for Brassard and a 4th.
What a terrible
move. Up more, and, Zibanejad has a point per game in New York.
Yep.
And they're giving up Brassard for a 3rd.
Ottawa just really loves making lackluster trades.
I think the rest of the league picks on Pierre Dorion because they know he's like tied on a string by Eugene Melnyk.
Yeah, no.
It's like you feel bad for the guy, but at the same time, like you have to take advantage of that. Like, if you can give a team a shit offer and they have to take it, well, they have to take it. So,
dude, good point.
Say sorry after. Joe Sakic is just sitting there laughing his ass off after tonight.
Yeah, well, and And yeah,
Ottawa
that's the
gives
thing.
up 3 forwards. And he's just like, okay, I have their first round pick.
Yeah, and for Colorado, it's a depth guy, plays
Yeah.
up the middle. They're fighting for that last playoff spot in the West that nobody seems to want to take. They're all just jockeying for it. Uh, yeah, I don't know.
And I think at his best, Brassard, when he was playing in Ottawa, he gave Turris reason to be a first, it solidified him as a second. But like I think he could be better as a third because he's got he's good, really good on as like a two-way forward, but like he's losing his offensive edge.
Yeah,
Gives Colorado that depth down the middle that they need.
yeah, kind of sheltered behind Nathan McKinnon a little
Hmm
bit. I don't know. I don't know who wins this trade. I have no answer for this.
I'm giving it to Colorado because it's just a third.
Yeah, that's true. A third for
And
a
that's
depth center.
you know, Derek Brassard is just past his prime when he was New York Rangers' leading scorer. He's pretty good with Ottawa too, but he's on the down low. I don't think they're gonna re-sign him if they don't have to. It's not the biggest price, especially if Colorado does well. Be a
Yeah,
late.
if they make the playoffs with him, then yeah.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then you're giving up a third. So I don't know. I'm down the middle on this one. I don't think Colorado got enough
I
of a
remember in
player for it to matter.
Ottawa's when Ottawa did make the playoffs with him, he had 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points in 19 games in the playoffs.
That's all right.
No, if you can play good playoffs too, this will look like just paid a third for a guy who's like your second line center, and that's not bad.
Yeah, it'll be
So I'm
good to
giving it
watch this video in a year or two
to
after we publish
yeah,
it and be
and
like,
see how
you
wrong we
idiots.
were.
Derek Brassard went on to so good things in Colorado. Okay. All right, I'm down the middle. You're on Colorado side for that one.
Yeah.
Next, this one. Okay. I was home today, and if anyone watching this video lives in Southern Ontario, the weather on the 25th of February 2019 was not fun. I stayed home. I couldn't even. Roads were closed in Guelph. I couldn't get off my street. It was bad. Uh, when I heard on TV on SportsCenter that Adam McQuaid was traded, my heart just jumped into it was bad because I've been dreading the fact that Dubas is gonna make this stupid decision and trade for Adam McQuaid. When Bob McKenzie said this trade, he said the Rangers have traded Adam McQuaid, and then he paused. I think just to screw with every Leaf fan watching to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Ha, I gotcha, and then carried on. But I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I don't know why, but the Adam McQuaid to Toronto rumors were everywhere for like a week, and I never understood it. But it's all good because the Blue Jackets got him for nothing, basically.
Yeah, not a lot. Julius Bergman, I think, was part of the Carlson trade.
I have no idea.
Was,
I don't know who
where
he
they
is.
get him? He got traded to Ottawa, who traded him away to Columbus. Oh, part of the Duchesne trade.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was Duchesne and Bergman for the return they got. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, this looks like Columbus is starting to make moves. I think did they make one more move during the day? I'm pretty sure they did. We won't say who it is yet.
Yeah,
but I think they make one more guy. And the moves they made earlier in the week with Duchesne and Dzingel, and they're in.
Yeah,
they know that their division is up for grabs essentially, with Pittsburgh being completely decimated, Washington just looking okay, and why are the New York Islanders leading that division? Robin Leonard is the answer to that question.
They've never made the big deal at the trade deadline. They've never made it past the first round of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I don't think they've ever won a series.
Yeah, this, they're like, okay, we've done it wrong every year. Let's do it differently. Let's actually go all in. And I gotta.
Yeah, and they've been close the last couple of years. They took Washington. They almost took out Washington, right? I think they were up 2 games, and took them to Game 7. And the year before that, they took Pittsburgh to I think a Game 6. So, they lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champions twice in a row in that division.
Yeah,
So they're thinking this year, you know what? Instead of trading Panarin and Bobrovsky, let's just do something and see what happens. Maybe we'll end up in a conference final. What they don't want to have happen is for them to stay the course, drop down a little bit, and end up playing the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. So they wanted to stay within their division. So I get this. I like this for Columbus.
I agree, and they didn't give up much.
And Adam McQuaid isn't that consequential. He's a depth guy. He's going to be a number 4, 5, 6 defenseman on any team. He's big, which kind of fits into John Tortorella's style. Yeah.
Okay. And Bergman's not going to be an NHL D, I don't think. He had some potential, but he's not that. He's not going to make it. 4th and 7th, maybe the 4th becomes something, but
yeah, with late round picks, you never know. I mean, you could draft, a Jamie Benn in the 5th round, but you also could draft a nobody. So,
they think the most decent case scenario with a 4th is that you get a player like Adam McQuaid.
Yeah,
you get a D, a right-handed bottom 4 D, right-handed shot. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll take Columbus on this one just because they got the player. Yeah, again, minor trades, nothing ground shaking for Columbus on this one.
Did you not want him to be traded to Toronto, or did you just keep the rumors? Or
I wanted nothing. I don't want nothing to do with Adam McQuaid in Toronto. Because you know why? Because he's a Mike Babcock style player, and Mike Babcock will end up playing that guy 25 minutes a night. It'll be bad. It'll be Roman Polak all over again, and it just no, I don't want it. I've had faith in Kyle Dubas because he's not a Kyle Dubas player. He's not a skilled, speedy. He's a big, brooding Roman Polak defenseman, which I don't think we needed.
I don't see him making the stretch pass.
No, I don't think he can
go to to Kapanen or something. And
yeah,
I'm still giving him. Could give it to Columbus.
Yep. 9th trade of the day. Calgary Flames acquire Oscar Fantenberg for a 4th round pick. The condition becomes a 3rd in 2020 if the Flames reach conference final and Fantenberg plays at least 50% of the playoff games, which I don't think is going to happen. But it's a 4th for a depth D.
Yep.
That's not very groundbreaking. I thought Calgary was going to do more. This trade deadline, because they're a team that needs to do something. They've been kind of a disappointment the last couple years, and leading their division. We're one of the best teams in hockey right now.
Really high hopes this year.
Yeah. Mike Smith has been playing better. David Riddick has been playing well all season. Mm-hmm. If a guy like maybe James Neal can start picking it back up again and become another, a 20-goal scorer or play really well in the playoffs, then that's, kind of your acquisition at the trade deadline. But this is, I thought they were going to do more than this. Oscar Fantenberg isn't enough to satisfy Flames fans, I think, going into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what you're only expecting. The condition, imagine that kind of discussion between GMs. They're like, if he plays 50% of the games, that doesn't give fans confidence in that kind of.
Yeah, so at best it's a 3rd, which I think is actually too much to give up. For a guy like Fantenberg, considering later in the day you end up seeing these depth D and depth forwards going for 6th and 7th round picks, and I know that's nitpicky at that point.
Yeah.
I think LA wins this trade. To be honest, I think I'm not a Flames fan, but if I put my in a Flames fan's perspective, this is just no good.
I'm gonna put it right down the middle, 50-50. I don't think we've seen everything we can get out of Fantenberg. Maybe he actually does pretty well as the 6th, 7th D for Calgary. That in the playoffs, you have that extra solid D line that, holds off one extra goal a game, and in the playoffs, every goal, that matters. It's so important. So I'm just going to give it 50-50 because they still get something that, holds their D line, that holds their D core together, keeps it. But
yeah, still you need depth D. It's not a matter of, it's a bad trade because he's a defenseman. Like in the playoffs, you're gonna use 7, 8, 9 defensemen in the playoffs. Guys are gonna get banged up, especially if you're gonna go to the conference final or the Stanley Cup final or whatever your goal is. Like you need Oscar Fantenbergs of the world, but
I'm looking here in this year with LA. He had 2 goals, 1 assist in 46 games. That's not a lot.
No, he's not. I don't think he's an offensive defenseman.
But last season, he had 2 goals, 7 assists for 9 points in 27 games. It's not a lot of points. It's still, 0.333 points per game. But I think he has something that he could still pass the puck, still move the puck. Came from the Swedish Elite League and the KHL, where he put up, not offensive defenseman numbers, but he's still moving the puck. Like, I don't. That's why I'm going to give it right down the middle because I can't tell yet.
Yeah, I think I think I said this already, but I'll give it to the Kings. A pick for a guy. The Kings are in kind of this weird pseudo rebuild mode.
And they get a pick.
They get a pick for a guy who's not going to help you.
Probably a 4th,
and they
maybe
probably reached a little with the 4th, possibly a 3rd.
I see why because they needed it too.
Next trade we got. This trade confused me when I heard it.
Likewise.
Nashville Predators acquire Mikael Granlund from the Minnesota Wild for Kevin Fiala. This was a weird kind of shakeup in Nashville, is it not? I think isn't.
Yeah, it is.
Granlund, like by far and away the better player in this trade.
Yes, I agree. I like Kevin Fiala, but I don't think he's as good as Granlund. Granlund has, I think offensively he's great, and he's a great 2-way player. He's evolved into like a solid top 6 center. Like that's great for Nashville.
Yeah, I'm just looking at stats. He has 49 points through 63 games, only behind Zach Parise on the Minnesota Wild for points this year.
Yeah.
He's a center. He'll immediately be the center behind Ryan Johansson in Nashville.
Yeah. I think they've lost a bit of faith in Turris.
Yeah.
I think Turris had, like Brassard, had his prime with Ottawa, and he's on like the tail end of his career, and it's not gonna. Mikael Granlund is in like the peak of his career, and he can really show up. And he has good playoff stats.
That is a big cap hit. Is he a UFA? Guys, you don't know.
He is not.
He is not.
But Kevin Fiala is.
Oh, okay. But Kevin Fiala's not making that much money.
No, he's making.
I mean, not this year. I mean, if he goes to open market, he's not making that much money. Is he? $3 million, maybe $3.5.
I see Fiala making just a bit more. 4, maybe a 4.5.
Yeah, so like this is, I don't know Nashville's. I'm just looking it up now on Cap Friendly. I don't know Nashville's cap situation, but that seems like a little bit, but too much money to pay a guy who may or may not be your number 2 center.
Yeah, they're gonna have $4.5 million right now, but they don't have anybody big to sign until next season.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now.
So they have.
I always forget that their defense core is like making too little money for for how good it is.
Yeah.
Roman Yossi's making $4 million this year. Next year, that's gross.
Yeah. And the Ryan Ellis contract this year helps them out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is good for Nashville. This was the result of the arms race that developed when Winnipeg got Kevin Hayes earlier in the day. To me, so.
Look at the price of centers. Kevin Fiala get Brendan Lemieux a 1st and a 4th for Granlund, who I think is way better than Kevin Fiala
Kevin Hayes.
Than a Kevin Hayes, thank you, is like Nashville,
which goes back to Winnipeg gave up too much for Kevin Hayes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely give this trade to Nashville.
Absolutely.
This is definitely a shakeup. I think Kevin Fiala's been there a little bit. They've kind of,
And
get a new guy in there, even though you don't need one. It's not like
and like, what
a
does
roster
Minnesota do
as far
now?
as chemistry goes. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, what's Minnesota doing? Do they think really highly of Fiala, and then they're hopefully he's gonna play a top six role next year?
The new, like they don't have any center. Like they want to force someone on center, make a big deal, and Koivu and Stahl are both getting old. They're not. They can't play first line center. They don't. They're just gonna do a rebuild. Like I don't know.
Yeah, like they're coming up soon to it. They have a lot of money tied up in Parise and Suter, but they're both getting older too. So like Minnesota is coming down to it. They need to win in the next few years, or they're gonna end up like Detroit with a bunch of players with too much money involved, and they're all too old, and now you can't compete, and you're
Except
right
with
at the
the
cap. Hmm?
At least Detroit got cups.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Detroit won a couple cups, so they're like, okay, and they were in the playoffs every year for the last 25 years. Minnesota is on this roll of getting eliminated in the first round by Chicago.
Yeah.
Or whoever, I don't think they've gotten past the second round ever, or at least
No.
under the current administration there. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised when I heard this. I'm like,
Yeah.
boy, they must think really
I
highly
thought
of
they
Ken
always
Fiala.
thought Granlund was their center for like ever. Like they were like, he's the one.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I agree. This is all Nashville.
This is all Nashville.
Small price to pay for a perfect second line center who they need. It gives Turris the chance to play third line center.
Limited roles, and again, going into the playoffs, you need guys. Someone's gonna get hurt. Even if they don't, they're all gonna be banged up. So to shelter minutes between Granlund, Turris, and Johnson on the first line, will be good. All right.
Minnesota currently holds the second wild card spot. This isn't gonna help them.
Oh yeah, no. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what this trade does.
Did they make this deal thinking they had another one lined up and then it just didn't? They're like, uh-oh.
Maybe. That's a weird way to run your team, though. I'm not an NHL executive, but like, come on.
I don't know, like it feels like just a thoughtless trade by Minnesota, and Nashville is just like just gets like.
Yeah, Nashville's going. This must have been like a trade that just dropped in their lap, and they're like, you know what? Why not?
Yeah.
Like, this makes complete sense for us.
That's good for Nashville.
Yeah.